Hi and welcome back to the workshop. In this video I'm trying to teach myself how to use a universal boring head. I often need to bore out large holes. I've got these large thick plates that go in my hydraulic press and I need to cut a semicircle curve into the plates. As I've never used this type of universal boring head before, this video is really just for me to work out myself how to use it. Here it is, all the way from Japan. And as you can see, it's not exactly in tip-top condition, but I think being a good quality brand, this is, again, Japanese. KKS is the company, or Kuroda, Tokyo, Japan. The important thing for me is it's an MT3, and as I mentioned in another video, M12 drawbar, but this has been slightly modified for a different type of taper to go into the milling machine. The MT3 taper is tucked away in there, so this is an adapter that's got to come off. I'm not too sure how they work. I've got to teach myself. So this is the rabbit hole. But in order for us to make a nice big hole, so to speak, to cut that circle out, I'm going to have to now look at teaching myself how this works, getting it all set up, doing some test cuts and see how it goes. Let's just have a look what we've got. So these are all what look to be high-speed steel inserts that go into the extension bars. So obviously I think goes in there, so you can set the width. That would be too much, but you get the idea. So you can shrink it right down to sort of that sort of diameter. And then to get even smaller, you can put them in this way to get almost down to very small diameters. The key thing with these are, as opposed to other ones, is as you're boring, you often want to take a cut, get bigger and bigger till you hit the tolerances. With, I think, more generic boring heads, you have to stop the machine almost, get out Allen keys, unlock things, twist Allen keys. But these have quick action thumb wheels. This then starts the pushing out a dovetail joint, which is this thing, that extends out or inwards. And so you can very quickly, almost without the machine stopping, increase at a micrometer type level, extending out the dovetail. So yeah, that's why I wanted to buy it. So what I've got to do is, I'm probably not going to strip this down. I'm just going to give it a bit of a clean. Teach myself how this works, take this off, make sure it fits in the machine, and do some test cuts. Now it's quite a chunky head for my mill, so we're going to see if this works or not. We've got all these crazy attachments. I don't know how these work. I'm going to have to download the manual, look at some YouTube online tutorials. I mean, this is still original because it's got the original wax, you can see, in place. This has never been touched, which is amazing. So obviously it's a component that's not used that much. And we've got various, what look like, I think, collets. Yes, maybe in the future I can look at machining up something that would take a carbide tip, like a boring bar in a lathe. So the first thing I do is to remove this taper adapter that's been put on. It's been there a number of years, I think, so it may be a bit tricky to separate. That looks a bit chewed up in there. I don't know why there's a hole further down. I've also got a grub screw there. I'll undo that grub screw and then see if we can rattle gun that out. This is going to be a challenge. I'll come back after I clean out this hole. So lucky I managed to get the tiny little rub screw out. This tiny little thing is really caked up in junk. But the problem is the little, what's a cap head down there, which is rooted by the look of it. It's not metric. 5mm Allen key won't fit, neither will 6. So I've only got these crappy imperial ones. I don't know if these will fit. Too small. So I think it might be this one, which is quarter inch, so mangled. I don't know if it's imperial or metric. I might have to just drive in a wrong size one, and because I don't need to use this again. But the problem is it might damage the thread on the one I do want, on the Morse taper. Well, after all that, I cut this quarter inch Allen key apart. I'll find the other half. Yeah, so I cut this thinking that it's quarter inch, and no, it doesn't fit. It's just too big. Now I've had a closer look, and it's got, being it is Japanese, it's got to be metric. So I've got one of my quality Allen key drivers, and it feels like it's just engaging, so I think it is 6 mil. And if I give it a bit of a tap, that starts to engage. Yeah, so I think it was just a bit of crap in there. So now I'll get my rattle gun and see if that will come off. Now I'm hoping it's anti-clockwise and nothing's crazy like a left-handed thread, but we'll find out. So here goes nothing. So I tried on doing the cap head bolt that's in the top of the adapter. It loosened a bit, but it seems as though the two tapers are probably stuck together because they've been like that for many, many years, and there's a lot of stiction. So I'm making up two little drifts so that I can gently tap two apart, and hopefully that will pop them or separate them a bit more easily. Okay, I've got these two tapered tangs, I suppose you call them, for hopefully this will work. This may have been stuck on for years, so it might be a bit of a nightmare to get off, but we shall see if it works. Just try, I don't want to damage any of the components. Halfway in and the other one halfway in. So hopefully, I don't know if you can see that, I'll give that a tap from above. The two wedges I'm hoping will separate very easily the adapter. Oh, it's pushing it off after all that work. That's crazy. I suppose it makes sense, that being a pusher. I don't have any carbide tipped boring bars. I've only got these for the lathe and they're way too long. Instead I'll use the high-speed steel that came with the box. So there was a bunch of high-speed steel square blanks. Obviously a lot of these are customized shapes. There's some pretty wacky shapes in here. You can see that's quite an amazing tip on that one. Probably to, I don't know, cut a internal groove or something like that. That one's very small, like an internal circlip. Pretty cool. That's the beauty of high-speed steel, is you can cut all these wacky geometries. But for me, I just want a plain bore. So I look on YouTube, and as always, there's a good video by Stefan Gottswinter, a German guy. Does excellent YouTube videos on machining. I've learned a lot from him, even though he's like way out of my skill set. Anyway, so he's described how to grind the geometry for a boring bar with a 90-degree corner, but with some slight rake, meaning back rake, meaning it doesn't rub against the bore as you're cutting. it's a bit, this is beyond my expertise a bit, but I've machined or ground it as per his specifications, and they always recommend to hone it. Now I need to get some fine stones so I can hone the edges better. I've got these cheap nasty little plastic things. I think they're for sharpening knives or something. But anyway, I managed just to bring up the edge so it's a lot smoother just by carefully rubbing that along. So it gives a nice finish. And he recommended just to round off the nose, only a couple of licks, because if it's too pointy, too sharp, you're more likely to chip the end. So by rounding just the leading edge of the nose, you get a better cut. So they fit in these little various shapes and sizes boring bar attachments. So I'm just going to put, they're pretty gunked up, so I'm just going to put them in the ultrasonic cleaner. So just like that. It's good using these little plucky bags, because you can just tip away the dirty Caro after it's finished. This is low odour kerosene, so it doesn't stink so much. So I just popped it in there very quickly, and you can see already it's getting very cloudy, so all the gunk is coming off. It's my little ultrasonic cleaner. I'll do about 10 minutes, and that should be more than enough. So they came up quite well actually after a bit of a clean. So I just I'll put some protective coating on there, just spray them so they don't flash rush or anything like that, and just to keep them going. And also the little collets all cleaned up quite nicely now. So I'll reassemble these, like I say, spray them in a film of oil, and they should be good for a few more years to come. It's really good quality, this stuff. Very impressed. So I've cleaned up the box a bit. I've got rid of all the crap. I'm just going to pop rivet this back in position like so. But the little rubber support thing like these has worn out. So I might just wrap that, a bit of old inner tube around like that, and just rivet it in. That should be enough to hopefully protect the shaft a bit longer. So hopefully that will pick up the hole. That's a bit better. So hopefully that will protect it a bit more. Anyway, so we can put these things back together. So I suppose these can go in there. This spanner's rooted. Doesn't actually work. It's like I think I might chuck that out. This is good though. I'll show you how this works in a minute. It's a lever to pop these off. I think that's about it. That's it. And the last little job is I might just stick this back on there with a bit of super glue. Anyway, that'll do for now. So what we'll do is try and do some boring, do some test boring. So now I've just got to put my freshly sharpened high-speed tool in. So it comes out just sticking out. Just nip that up. Stick that in the boring head. Okay, so we've got the high-speed steel ground and inserted into the holder as so. I've got it in the middle because it's quite a small hole. I've just plunge cut previously a hole saw, cut out a rough hole so we now can bore it accurately. So it's pretty simple. All you do is, currently it's in boring mode. So this pin here is pulled fully out and this pin at the top here is pushed in. And then all we need to do is release this light. There's a lock here for the slide, and we'll just add on 0.1 of a mil cut. So each one of those is 0.01. So full one is 0.1. So that's 0.1 of a cut on there. Just lock the slide and then just plunge cut. As this is a test cut, I'm going to see if we can take off 0.5 mil. So now I add on 0.5 of a mil, so unlock. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 0.5 cut now, so that'll be a pretty heavy cut. So that's that. So it's pretty easy to use and very accurate. Like I say, you can have very fine setting on this of 0.01 of a mil. So now we're going to do a test facing cut. And all we do is we reverse the pins. So this pin goes in. And then this pin pops out at the top. Using the tool. And we'll add a bit of depth of cut, let's say 1/4 of a mil. And now what will happen is we'll put a pin in here, which comes with the kit, to hold the top one still. And as it rotates, it'll auto feed the boring bar slowly outwards. For every revolution. It's only a couple of microns, I think. So that's a pretty good finish on that. And then obviously you keep going down by whatever depth you want. To reverse feed it back in quickly, because it's very slow to wind it back in. Again, you do the reverse, swap the pins, one in, one out, stick this in again, and it quickly retracts the boring bar. Bit more, And you can also hold it with your hand. There you go, and it's already retracted back. And then you'd add on your more depth of cut. So what was that, 1/4 mil? So we'll go down to 1/2 mil. Might just slow it down a bit. Again, we swap this over, pin in the front. Pin out the top. Stick your pin in here. Turn it on. So in this direction, it's moving the slide a lot slower, so it takes a while for it to start engaging on the steel. Here it goes. And then it's a case of rinse and repeat. There's also stops on here, so you can actually, if you wanted to, move this along to that, well, you set the depth of cut by moving this along. Eventually that pin will strike that, and supposedly there's a clutch or something in here which causes the pin to pop out and stop driving, but I won't risk that. Anyway, now I've got to see if this is going to work on what we're trying to achieve here, which is trying to cut a hole in the plates. Okay, let's give this a go. So I'll just take a light cut first, 0.1 mil. Just drop that down and see how we go. Okay, that might work. So I'm just taking it as, I'll take the arc, I'm cutting back as far as the notches today, and then we're basically got to go all the way down. That seems to be doing fine. Might put a bit of coolant on, lubricant on that. So what we'll do now is we'll drop it down 1/2 mil. First we've got to retract it. I've decided to cheat a little bit and just hacksaw out most of the metal and then just clean it up with the boring head. So I've cleaned it up quite nicely. That's as much as I'll take off. I might just give this a quick lick over the top to flatten it and make sure it's nice and flat, because it's a bit curvy. Not much, but yeah, might as well while I've got it in the vise. Give it a fly cut over the top for both sides, just machine underneath so they're all level. You can see it's not perfectly flat, hence why I'm taking a light lick off the top, sort of obviously lower at this end. It's only taking off 0.3 of a mil. So hopefully this video gives you a bit of an overview of how the universal boring head works. It's obviously a very useful tool to have in a workshop if you can get hold of one. They're getting rarer to find, but they're certainly out there, so keep an eye out on Facebook for various second-hand tool shops. I'll post a link above. That's where I got mine from, and they're still advertising if you are not quite sure if they ship overseas. But that's it for the video. So thanks very much. Hopefully it helped somebody out there on the internet.